Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started a little bit earlier. I do remember some of our table leaders need to scoot out a little sooner. So, a couple things I want you to write down. We'll do some house stuff here first. One of the things that I teach on a regular basis is a 8-week class, and it's called the Grief Recovery Method. It's a real original title that they gave the program, but that's what it's called, the Grief Recovery Method. The next one I'll do will be February 1st, and it runs for 8 consecutive weeks on a Thursday evening here at the church. That's a program that I'm trained and certified in. Pretty much all of our table leaders, I don't think all of them, but the majority of our table leaders have been through that program and know it well. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted them here. You can ask them some questions about it if they've been through the program or not. I always tell people this. I believe it's one of the most helpful things that you can do, but it's probably also going to be one of the hardest things you'll ever do because we dig deep. Okay, the stuff we've touched on, just surface stuff here for 3 hours today, and we dig a lot deeper and just really dig into relationships and the healing. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask me about it. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. It's the cheapest counseling you'll ever get, and you'll be with a group of people that are going through the same things you're going through, which I think is one of the most helpful things about a day like today. You know, sometimes you feel like you're the only person who's going through what you're going through. And you connect with a group like this and realize we've got 6 people is what Mike said in this room. And we all have broken hearts. We're all hurting. And it doesn't go away overnight. And it's just helpful to be around people. You know, if you ever pick up the Kansas City Star, do they even print the Kansas City Star anymore? Back when they used to publish the Kansas City Star. Yes, ma'am. Okay, it's on Thursday, February 2nd. Thank you for correcting me on that one. And it'll run those 4 Thursdays in February and into March. But, I tell people, if you just pick up the Kansas City Star on a Sunday, and there's usually like 40 to 50 obituaries in there, and think about all the spouses and all the kids that those people have and all the grandkids, and there's 20 to 30 grieving people sometimes with every single family member listed. And how are those people getting help? And we just believe as a church and as a hospice company that we need to help those people as much as we can. I believe grief is one of the most misunderstood, least talked about. A lot of really bad information out there about it and how to deal with it than just about anything else in the world. So, what else? Oh, the discussion time. I just want to mention that's been purposeful. I think it's important that we talk to people, and we want, we all need to be heard with love and respect and dignity. So I want to give you a lot of discussion time to talk about these things, so we can kind of learn from one another as well. So session 3, I said, is one I kind of enjoy the most because my goal today really is to send you home with some ideas, things that you can do to honor your loved one this year. Okay, and you say, well, maybe it's been a few years. That's okay. Keep in mind, too, that because we're all different, we all grieve differently. Somebody in your family may look at that and go, wow, I think we could do that, and we ought to do that. 3 other family members may say, no, I don't want to do that one. That's just too tough. That's too emotional. Mike, I just realized I forgot to pass out all that stuff I need to pass out. I jumped into this. Stop the tape. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into this session, and I apologize. I should have had those all out to you beforehand. So some tools to help. What can you do to maybe make things a little bit easier this year? These are just ideas, okay? You know your family a lot better than I do, so this is just to give you some tips, some things maybe to think about that could we do this with our family? Will this be helpful? And be as creative with them as you want to. In fact, if you come up with some new ideas, I'd love to hear them too. We'll add this to our list for future groups. But just the first one we talk about, we encourage people to journal, especially this time of year. Journaling has been proven very therapeutic throughout the years. And I'm not going to read all of this, but just some journaling ideas to just get you a little, I have to be careful here whenever there's men in the room because all the men are like, I'm not journaling. That sounds like I'm writing in a diary. Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. We just don't call it that. So, because we hope men will do that. But, it's just getting a notepad, writing down your thoughts for the day. Today was awesome. I went shopping with 3 of my kids, and it wasn't near as bad as I thought. Today was horrible. I heard "Oh Holy Night" 3 times on the radio, and that was Mom's favorite Christmas carol. It just tore me up. I had to pull off to the side of the road while I cried. Whatever you want to write out. You can write out prayers. Some people write their prayers as they journal. Maybe you don't feel like praying, and you write in your journal, "I don't feel like praying right now. In fact, God, here's what I really think. This is what I'm feeling." All of that is perfectly fine. It's acceptable. It's just it's okay to do all those things. Kind of the purpose is just to kind of get a routine of sharing your thoughts and knowing that you have some place to dump those thoughts, so they're not just stuck inside. You've got a place to dump those while they're on your mind. You might mix it up a little bit too by using some visuals. Maybe you have some old magazines around the house and you search through, and Mom was a great cook and she's not going to be here this year to do the meal, but here's pictures of that remind me. You can get really creative. You can get grandkids involved in something like this with your grandkids. Make collages. We're going to make a collage, and we're going to go through these magazines and find everything that reminds us of Mom and Dad or Grandma or Grandpa, whoever it might be. If they were big into music, you might do the same thing with the music magazines or whatever. Again, just being creative, but this is just a helpful way of keeping your thoughts before you and putting them down in a way that's helpful. Letter writing is next one. I'm jumping ahead 2 pages here to page 18. Letter writing is, again, I think it's similar to journaling, but you can do this in a variety of ways. Just kind of on the themes of your loved one, and just if you don't know what to write about, just these simple sentences and completing these simple sentences. A special memory that I have of you, and just let the pen take off at that point. Writing down those special memories that you have. Maybe it's from this time of year, maybe it's not from this time of year. Maybe it was during the summertime, but writing out some kind of a memory there. What I miss most about you and our relationship is, you write that out. What I wish I had or hadn't said. What I'd like to ask you. What I wish we had or hadn't done. Ways in which you will continue to live on in me are special ways I have for keeping my memories of you. I've had 2 people who took this little assignment and they got creative with it, and we just suggest doing it in letters. But one family took this and they had on Thanksgiving Day they had like a little vase. That's what I'm trying to say, little vase, and they left these little sayings all around. They passed them out to everybody and said, "I want you to fill this out," or when people arrived, said, "Fill this out, put that memory or finish the sentence that you have." They cut all these up, and so everybody had a different one, and said, "Cut them up, write out your answer to that, and then put it in. And then Christmas morning, we're gonna pull them out and we'll start reading some of them." And so when they got together at Christmas, they did that. Another family wrote out these things, did the same thing, cut them up, and then wrote them out, and then wrote them on construction paper. And they glued the construction paper together and made a little garland out of it and put it on the tree. And then on Christmas, they broke the garland up one by one, and they read these things about their loved one, which I thought both those were really cool ideas. So feel free you can do that. Or I had one family that passed these out right before the meal. They said, "Okay, before we eat, we're gonna read this, and everybody has to answer the question." And I said, "How'd that go?" And they said, "Well, it wasn't too bad, except the food got cold." I said, "Well, yeah," but especially when you start telling stories and memories. And so I said, "Well, I might do it for dessert, okay? Nobody can have dessert until they share their memory." But there's some really nice ones there. And I think, again, if you get creative, you could have a lot of fun with those. I'm going over to page 14. Talks about creating your own memorials. And there's several here. I'm going to talk about each of these a little bit. I do think, especially after a loss, that it's important to maybe begin new times of remembrance or new memorials or new traditions. And so maybe you'll see one of these that really helps, or you feel like our tree could do that. Our family could do that. I looked down at the first one. Our family could do that. That would be really helpful, or maybe not. But the first one that I did there is to buy a living Christmas tree this year. And you can buy living Christmas trees that haven't been hacked off at the bottom. They're still in the pot. And then you can plant those after the holidays. And I've had people who've done this. I had somebody mention to me not long ago. They said, "We did that 12 years ago. And that tree has grown in our yard, and so now it's grown tall, and that we know that that's the tree that we planted in honor of Dad that year." But you just purchase a live Christmas tree and we planted it anywhere. You could also do this at various loved ones' houses. You could all get a living Christmas tree and plant it in your yard. So there might be 4 or 5 of those, and every time you go to that house or visit that family, you've got these Christmas trees. Purchase or make a memorial candle, which will be lit each morning or evening, extinguished only before bedtime throughout the holiday season. I've had families do this. They just set a candle in the center of the kitchen table. They just light it in the morning. They blow it out at night. If you're a little worried about the flames, of course, they have the ones now that are battery operated, which is really just as pretty, and they work very effectively, and they flicker all day long. You could have one something like that, or you could just do one that's just goes all through the whole season if you want. Buy a single flower on the table in honor of the presence of your loved one. I'm going to pause here for just a moment and remind you to think about the empty chair this year. And I know that that is probably something you don't want to think about and talk about right now, but I just want to warn you about that because I don't want you to get to the holiday table and everybody sit down to eat and everybody all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, we didn't think about this. Dad's chair is empty this year. And what do we do? And so I don't want you to be prepared for. I want you to be prepared for that. I don't want you to be shocked or caught off guard by that because I've had families that has happened to, and they talk about how some families just leave and they can't even eat dinner and they all go to separate rooms. Everybody has a big cry. Just be prepared for it. So think about it. So some ideas along those lines. And this suggestion is place a single flower on the table in honor of the loved one and kind of lay it across the plate. That might be a little heavy for you, okay? And you might be like, no, we're not doing that. When my father-in-law passed away, I remember my mother-in-law, she just, right before the meal, she said, well, this is Frank's chair. I'm the matriarch of the family now, so I'm sitting here. So it was done, problem solved, taken care of. But she was kind of that kind of person. And so that's fine. Some people will have the oldest son sit there. Some people, maybe the youngest grandchild. Again, your family, you know what's best, but I just don't want you to be taken back and everybody say, oh my gosh, we hadn't thought about that. Who sits there? If you're like me, the family we grew up in, everybody had their spot. So maybe not so much that way anymore, but we knew where Dad's chair was, and nobody sat in Dad's chair for 35 years, right? Because that was Dad's chair. I love this one. This would fit great for our family. Purchase a game that your loved one used to play. When you're done, play it throughout the day, through the holiday season. When you're done, give it to a daycare center or nursing home. You could do the same thing with jigsaw puzzles, things like that. If your loved one really liked jigsaw puzzles, or maybe it's just just something they enjoy doing. They loved football, so it's going to be family football get together. We're going to play flag football. Is Mike in here? I'm going to need a water. I can feel a tickly coming up. If one of you guys, I'm going to have the most water I've ever had. So, never mind. I'll have 9 bottles of water up here in just a second. So, I knew this would happen probably sometime today. But I really like that idea of just having that's all right. Being prepared for it, or I'm sorry, backing up, to purchase a game, a loved one. If my dad loved the game Pit, which I thought was the stupidest game ever played, card game ever invented. If you've never played Pit, it's noisy, it's loud, and it's everybody screaming at the same time. But my dad loved that game, so that would have been the game we would have purchased for him, and we would have all played Pit, and we would have laughed about how Dad always felt like he was getting cheated. You could do something as simple as observe a moment of silence. No money involved. Maybe said we're going to stop before we say grace or before we have prayer. If we don't have prayer, you can just have a moment of silence, and or ask one to share a significant memory. You can garnish your tree this year with things from nature or items that represent your loved one. And I really like this idea because again, if they were a woodsy type person, they were a big hunter, or if they're into music, or if trains was their thing, have everybody buy an ornament this year that has to do with trains or is a musical instrument and decorate it on the tree. Maybe they just loved flowers. Everybody buys a different ornament and puts a flower on the tree. You can get grandkids again involved in stuff like this, and they would love doing things like that. They can decorate ornaments. They don't have to be beautiful. They're always more special when they're a 3-year-old's written it out anyway. But I like that idea of just putting things on the tree that your loved one would like. Spend some time together as a family with a family album. I'll give away one of my secrets. I do this every year, and my boys don't even know I'm doing it. But when my kids will be home, probably Monday night this year, because I think one of my kids is going to the football game on Christmas Eve, the Chiefs game, and the rest of them aren't coming in until late Sunday night. So probably on Monday when we're sitting around watching football or they're playing video games, whatever they're doing, I always go get the family. We don't have a family album. We have a a little stand about this tall, like 4 drawers, it's just stuffed with family pictures. And I get them out, and I just start looking at them and sitting them down. Don't tell anybody what I'm doing. I just send them. Usually only takes about 5 minutes. So, what are you looking at? "Oh, I just went and got the family pictures. Oh, let me see some. Let me pass around. So they start passing around. We have a new daughter-in-law in the last couple of years. She loves them. Oh, look how little you were. You were so cute when you were 8. And my son's like, yeah, I still look the exact same way. Which he does. He, and then we start telling stories. Where was this taken at, Dad? Oh yeah, remember when we went on that camping trip? Oh wow, that's when. And we have a picture of my mother holding our oldest son, which was the last connection between grandparent and grandchild. And every year they see that, and I said, yeah, you ought to cherish that picture because that's the only one we have. And someday you'll have that. Just the stories start flooding, and yeah, the tears start sometimes too. That's okay. There will be a lot of them this year, but the idea is to keep that connection going. My kids still haven't figured it out. They do it every year. They probably think I do it every week, which I don't. But I do it every time they're home, and I want them to do that. I want them to know their loved ones, their family. And who's this? Oh, that's Uncle Joe. He lives in Minnesota. Oh, I didn't know we had an Uncle Joe. Well, there's a reason. We don't want you to know about Uncle Joe. So everybody's got that uncle, right? So give me that picture. I'll hide that and bring it back out next year. You could also just you can make that more official and reserve some time with family or friends to just tell stories. Hey, Dad's not here this year. Let's all tell stories. Tell your favorite story about Dad. Let's all tell our favorite story about Mom. What was the thing that you loved? What's your most favorite memory? What's your funniest memory? What's your most heartfelt memory? Again, get creative with it. Think of ways you could do that. You can make them draw questions out of a hat. Funniest memory, saddest memory, happiest memory, those kinds of things. And just reserve that time. Say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing for the next hour. You might be surprised if it goes 2 hours, right? That can really be a precious time for the family. Buy a Christmas present for your loved one in the form of a gift for the home, which will be a special place, or take on a special meeting for the holidays to come. Maybe you just, as a family, get together and say, Mom would have loved this. Mom always wanted a china cabinet. I don't know. Mom always wanted someplace to display her bells. Mom always wanted this or that. Let's all chip in together. Let's get that. Let's put it in the home, and we'll put some of her favorite things in there. Then it just stays and becomes a traditional thing in the home and family. Some churches still decorate the altar at the church. You can buy poinsettias or something like that. You can do that. Purchase something in honor of them, and that's always a good option. You can make a memory wreath or quilt. These are really cool, and there are people who still make quilts, especially if your loved one maybe always wore flannel shirts, or if they always liked to wear those T-shirts with funny sayings, or if they were a sweater person. There are quilt makers who put really nice backs on them, and they'll cut up the shirts and then make a really nice quilt out of them. And trust me, those are cherished presents. And people love those. Or you could have pillows made out of them. If a quilt seems a little vast, you can get pillows made out of some of those shirts. And people who know what they're doing, it's really not that difficult. Yeah, there's an investment there probably. It might cost you a little bit. But you just purchase a wreath, make the quilt, or you can also purchase a wreath and decorate with items that remind you of your loved one, and maybe donate that to someone or gift to someone, or put it on your front door. I love this idea. Purchase a book about a topic that he or she loved, place their name inside, and donate it to a library. Again, if they were into trains or musical instruments or sewing or crafting or whatever it was, have everybody buy a book on that topic. And then when it's done, you can get little stamps or just write inside "donated in memory of" and put their name in it. You can donate those to a library. You can donate it to senior facilities, something like that. They love those kinds of things, and that can be a real meaning-making thing as well. Write out memories of your loved one on strips of paper, loop them together, and place them on the tree. And like I said, that's where I gave that idea, and that other family kind of put these together. If you're here and maybe you lost your loved one several years ago, maybe you've done some things like that. Have you done anything that maybe we didn't suggest here that you've done for your family that you felt like was helpful? Yes, ma'am.
I just I'm going to make little snowman. Oh, hello. Little snowman ornaments, and I'm going to put Jerry's name very small at the bottom and hand them out to strangers and just tell them Merry Christmas, and then I know he'll be
Oh, that's neat. I like that idea. If you didn't hear all that, she found some on Amazon and little snowman. She's gonna put her husband's name. Your husband, I assume.
Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry, name right at the bottom, and just give them out to strangers. Say Merry Christmas. Amazon has all kinds of really neat ways you can design your own ornaments. By the way, we try to do that just about every year for different events that have happened in our family's life, and you can date them. And my wife and I did a 5K one year. Don't get excited. She did it in half the time I did it, and I about died and swore to I'd never do it again. You can tell I haven't run a lot of 5Ks, but we did that one year. But we got an ornament made of it, and she got real smart and put her time on there and put my time on there. And so for every year, the kids are like, "Dad, she beat you by like 12 minutes." I say, "Yeah, I know." So, but those are great memory makers, awesome memory makers to do those kinds of things. And so, just little highlights of their life or whatever. Anybody else done something that you think has really helped your family a little bit, or maybe you haven't even thought about it much? Oh, yeah.
So we have a box of baby clothes from my daughter, and so every time somebody close to us has a baby, a daughter, we always pick out an outfit that we would have given to our daughter, and we give that to them as, in memory of her.
Oh wow, that's neat, Andrew. I appreciate you sharing that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, but a friend of mine did this for her mom. She had found a card that her mom had written, "Love Mom," and then she took that and put it on a necklace. The inscription. So I'm going to do that for my kids, my grandkids.
Yeah, that's neat. We back when there were cassette tapes, we had the last recording of our mother's voice on a cassette tape, and I said for years, I'm going to make copies of that, and all the other brothers and sisters were asking for it. Yeah, can we get a copy of that? Can we? Oh yeah, no problem. And you know what happened with cassette tapes? I never got it made. Got all warbly. Finally, it broke, and I never got those. So, if you're thinking about doing something, my challenge would be jump in there and get it done, because you don't want that to go by. Joanna? Yeah. This is good for Mike.
I want to brag on one of the gifts that was given in our family that I have encouraged other people to do. Was actually given by some of our interns to my son's twin sister when he passed, and it was for Christmas. They gave her a Build-A-Bear with his life dates
Oh, wow.
and his laugh.
Oh, how
recorded.
neat.
That is one of the most amazing gifts, and it went to college, and it's still there. And so being able to do those things and capture them, those kind of gifts, whether we're the ones that are grieving or we're the ones who are helping someone else grieve in our own family for the same person, we all get to walk beside each other.
I love that idea. That is so cool. What a neat idea. Yeah.
Like when my dad died, some of my sisters and I all got like a favorite shirt that my dad wore a lot, and we would cut that up and you can make like an apron out of it. And even if you don't wear aprons, you can kind of hang it around for a while to remember him.
Yeah, I like that.
Love that.
These are great ideas. Like I said, just some creativity. You can come up with little ways to honor your loved one. I want to do this. On page 17 has a little what we call candle lighting, and I'll just be real honest. I've had a lot of family members who tell me that's just way too much. It almost feels like another funeral service. We don't want to do that. But for others, I've had them tell me that was really touching, and we did that, and we really appreciated you doing it. So, so kind of the idea behind it here is you move your bottle of water. But the idea here would be to just have 5 different candles, and either have a family member, someone read these paragraphs, and then light the candle as that paragraph is being read. So it's really wouldn't take a long time, but you could then leave the candles burning again through the dinner or whatever it might be. But and so I'm going to read these. Again, if it's a little bit emotional, I apologize, but that's why we have Kleenexes everywhere. We understand the nature of this. So it just says, as we light these 5 candles in honor of you, we light one for our grief, one for our courage, one for our memories, one for our love, and one for our hope. This first one, as we light it, represents our grief. thankfully, it's not a lot of grief because I'm late. There we go. So this candle represents our grief. Even though it is a small flame, the loss is intense and still with us. Losing you hurt more than we could ever have imagined. We acknowledge that one day we can heal from our grief and this flame will die out, but right now, on this day, and at this moment, we miss you. This small flame still burns deep into the innermost part of our being. Second candle represents courage. You had the courage to live and the courage to die. Because of knowing and watching your life, we have the courage to go on, the courage to face our sorrows head on, and the courage to become involved in community and the courage to comfort others. We know we will survive. This third candle represents hope. As this flame burns, it reminds us of the warmth of family, friends, and the hope of a better tomorrow. It encourages us to press on in the hope that we will once again be joined together. This fourth candle burns the brightest because it represents our memories that we cherish about you. This is what continues to brighten up our lives, the happy moments we spent together, the funny things we did, the joys and trials that we shared. Even the arguments we had and that special smile upon your face will be a flame that can never die out. This flame we will share with our children and grandchildren and will carry your memories forever in our heart. Someone once said there abides faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And that's why this candle is the biggest and the brightest, because it represents our love. Love is the most powerful thing on earth. It transcends even death. Death has no power over love. We will always love you, and this candle of love will burn long after the others have gone out. We love you, Dad, Mom, whoever it might be. Some people feel like this is maybe a little too heavy, and it might be for your family and where you're at. But on the other hand, it might be exactly what you're needing or looking for on that day. You could do this a variety of ways. I've had families make a wreath. If you use a live wreath, I encourage you to spray it down and keep it spritzed and keep it wet. Okay, you can place the candles inside that. I had one family who didn't, and it's still a memory they have. Almost burnt down the kitchen table. So just be smart. You can get the ones, of course, the candles with the little battery operated. Totally acceptable. Just light one for each as they go. They don't have to be Christmas colors. Okay, if Grandma's favorite color was lavender, make the big one a big lavender candle, or yellow, or whatever it might be. If they passed away in the spring, you could use a spring colored. Again, just this can be mixed up. Okay, again, use your creativity and how you'd want to do this, if you choose to even do this. Okay, but a lot of families like to do that, and just again, the candles are very special, and they do represent the different joys and things that we've experienced in our loved ones' lives. So, I'm gonna close with this poem, and then I'm gonna give you a chance to tell you what. Let's do our discussion questions first on this one. I'd like for you to two things on your table. First of all, the discussion questions talk about: did you hear anything that you think might work for your family? Something you'd like to do, maybe something you don't want to do. Maybe it's this, okay? And you're like, no, we're not going to do that. That's a little too much. But was something, some ideas you think you might be able to do? Discuss that a little bit. And then the ornaments that are very simple on the table. I have extras too if you'd like to make two of them. But the ornaments are just an idea of just in some pictures to just write your loved one's name, or you can write their date, their life and death dates, or however you want to do that. Just some ideas there, and play with that. So take your time on those. If you mess one up, like I said, I've got a few extras, and I can get them to you. But that's kind of the idea behind the ornament. I want to give you something to take home with you as just a kind of a small memory maker. So let's discuss that. And before we close, then I've got a final poem that I want to read to you, and then we'll go today. So while you're working on your ornaments, and before we kind of dismiss and wrap up, I just want to read this poem to you. Some of you may have seen this online somewhere, discovered it. Interestingly enough, I've seen this poem for about the last 10 years or so. It's called My First Christmas in Heaven. And we hired a lady at our office about a year and a half ago. She actually wrote this poem She said, problem is, when it got published and it got out there, and said, seldom is my name attached to it. So, so if you sell this and make lots of money on it, at least attach her name to it, all right, and give her a cut. But I love this poem. It goes like this. She says, I see the countless Christmas trees around the world below, with tiny lights like heaven's stars reflecting on the snow. The sight is so spectacular. Please wipe away that tear, for I'm spending Christmas with Jesus this year. I hear the many Christmas songs the people hold so dear, but the sounds of music can't compare with the Christmas choir up here. I have no words to tell you the joy of their voices bring, for it is beyond description to hear the angels sing. I know how much you miss me. I see the pain inside your heart, for I am spending Christmas with Jesus this year. I can't tell you of the splendor or the peace here in this place. Can't you just imagine Christmas with our Savior face to face? I'll ask him to lift your spirit as I tell him of your love. So then pray for one another as you lift your eyes above. Please let your hearts be joyful and let your spirit sing, for I am spending Christmas in heaven and I'm walking with the King. Yeah, great poem. I love that. Lady by the name of Wanda White wrote that poem. So if you find it online, it may say Wanda Bernanke. But a couple things I want to give to you real fast, and then I'm going to let Mike close this out. But I'm going to give you my phone number. First of all, I was going to bring some business cards. Now, I work for Crossroads Hospice, so anything I do, pretty much grief-related, is on their time. So if you wanted to talk with me or just have a conversation on the phone or a visit, I am more than willing to do that and schedule that with you. My number is 816-268-2634. That is my direct line at my office, and I have a confidential voicemail. If you want to call and just talk, some things you heard today, if you've got more questions, if you want to have a family meeting, I'm open to that as well. Just want to make myself available to you. Any of the work that I do does not cost anything. Again, this is what my company wants me to do, be out in the, I also happen to be, as Mike said, one of the elders here at Journey. We're very involved in the church here and love it here. So anything we can do to help you along your journey. If you happen to live out of the area, I have a lot of contacts around the country too through our Grief Recovery Network, and I might be able to connect you with some people in your area that do the same kind of work that we do. And then again, February 1st, of course, is we'll start that 8-week class, and usually down one of the hallways, one of the kids' hallways that way. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. That class, no. It's just designed. There's so much personal work we do in sharing that it would never be. Plus the confidentiality factor on that. We don't do those online. So, but that's a great question. Anything else? Any other questions? Feel free to stick around as long as you want. I have no place to go. My wife is homesick, so I really don't want to go home and re-get what I got. So, no, she probably needs someone to take care of her. Yeah, I'll stick around as long as you want me to and be here all day. Yes, ma'am.
Just real quickly, sorry.
Yep.
What's the name of that poem and the author again?
The author's name is Wanda White, or Benke, B-E-N.
And actually, we have a copy of that poem for each of you as you leave. Yeah.
I forgot I did that part.
We
You're
have
right.
a copy of that poem. But anyway, before we get to the kind of housekeeping things, can you guys let Jeff know how much you appreciate just how much he's given